We're home cooks. There's always food at home.
That's not how that trend works, man.
Excuse me. Way to interrupt my video.
You're supposed to have a camera follow you, and plus, you're not even a home cook anyway.
Why are you always so negative towards me?
Oh, so all of our other skits don't exist? All you do is rag on me.
Maybe counseling is the next step.
Wait, what?
I've been thinking it may be time I go get my own place.
That would be amazing.
Nah, I'm just messing. Well, I'm gonna go get some Filipino food.
We have Filipino at home.
Chicken adobo is a classic dish from the Philippines. Every household is going to make it differently. I don't think there's one right way to do it, but the heart of it is just marinated and then stewed chicken served with rice. This is easily one of the simplest dishes I've made on this channel in a while, but it doesn't lack the flavors or depth of a complex dish. Here's how I make mine. Starting with the chicken, and you can choose between bone-in and boneless. I happen to use boneless, skinless chicken thighs here because I had a lot in my freezer. I think you can get a little bit better results with bone-in just because the bones can help the sauce taste better. But either way, I have about 2 pounds that I'm spreading into a casserole dish. And to marinate, I'm starting with 6 to 8 cloves of minced garlic, 4 dried bay leaves, which my friend Jennifer gifted me with these. They're going to taste amazing. Then if you have these pucks of palm sugar, I think that's most traditional to use here. I'm using 1 puck, which weighs about 50 grams, which is equivalent to about a quarter cup. You could use the same amount of brown sugar if you don't have this, but I'm shaving it down with a knife and then chopping it a bit to make it easier to spread throughout the marinade. That goes in, then I'm adding a good bit of freshly ground black pepper, about a teaspoon, followed by a couple of teaspoons of whole peppercorns, about a half cup of regular soy sauce, and a quarter cup of dark soy sauce. I really don't think you need to measure any of this, by the way. It's pretty forgiving. I'm finishing up the marinade with a half cup each of white vinegar and water, and then just cover it up and marinate it. Some recipes say you can marinate this for as little as 30 minutes, but I just don't think that's enough with the way I'm cooking this at least. I'd say the minimum is 4 hours. I'm going overnight. And then the next day, I'm doing what I think is the most important part of the recipe. I'm going to remove my chicken thighs from the marinade and get them onto some paper towels. I'm really going to pat these dry as best as I can. We're going to be searing these, and any liquid marinade left on the outside is going to really inhibit that. And also the sugars in that marinade will easily burn, so we're trying to get rid of that exterior coating. That's why I think it's important to marinate this overnight so you can make sure the flavor is left inside. I've just burned too many fondants to want to deal with that again here. And you're not losing flavor with this because, again, the flavor is already inside of the chicken and we're going to reserve the rest of the marinade anyway. So I have my cast iron Dutch oven over high heat and I'm just adding some neutral oil. I'm searing my chicken in 2 batches to make sure I'm not overcrowding the pan. And all you really need is about 2 to 3 minutes per side, just flipping to make sure everything is browning evenly. And while we did pat these dry, there's still sugars on the outside, so it's still susceptible to burn, so just be careful. Once you have all your chicken seared and removed, we're going to add that reserved marinade. This is the best part. We're going to cook this down into a syrupy glaze that's going to coat the chicken. So I keep that on high heat and use my wooden spoon to scrape up the fond on the bottom. Once this comes up to a boil, I'm going to lower it to a medium-low heat and add all my chicken back in. Super important not to leave this juice behind anytime you remove meat from a pan. This stuff could be the difference between winning and losing a competition. So I'm leaving this uncovered to simmer because I want this to reduce. You're letting this go until 2 things happen. 1, you want the chicken to finish cooking through and braising so it gets tender. And then 2, you want the sauce to cook down until it's a nice thickened and concentrated glaze. So I just come by every 15 minutes or so and flip the chicken just to make sure nothing is drying out on top. This process took me about 45 minutes in total. It's really hard to overcook chicken thighs, so your real indicator is going to be when that sauce is really nice and thick. You want to see it sticking to your spoon like this and really adhering to the chicken when you pour it over. This stuff is absolutely heavenly. There shouldn't be any need to season this to taste because the soy sauce is really concentrated and it should be enough salt. But it's really that simple. This is it. I'm just going to garnish this with some green onions and serve it up next to some fresh rice. Make sure to spoon over some of that sauce on the chicken and especially over the rice. A super simple dish with very few ingredients that's going to taste like a lot more. I can't believe I went this long in my life without trying it, but at least now I know. Let's taste test.
Finally, a fairly easy recipe compared to some of the stuff I've been doing. This one can realistically be knocked out in a couple of hours, even though I would still recommend doing it overnight. I've already had taste of the sauce and it's just so deeply flavored and so concentrated. Any kind of soy sauce based sauce that you make is going to taste good when you boil it down. But it's time to eat some of this chicken, and no knife needed for this one. Cheers. With a little bit of rice. So here's proof that simple can be better. Sometimes you just need a couple of ingredients thrown together and you have a really nice home-cooked meal. I think adding a ton of sugar like we did pays off. You get the caramelized flavors when you brown the meat and it just cooks down in the sauce and it tastes better in my opinion. I just can't believe it took me this long to try any kind of Filipino food. You know, watching YouTube and TikTok and stuff, you see tons of Filipino dishes just come across your page. They have a really deep and rich culinary history, so I need to dive into it more, which is what I say about every culture, but that's what I'm here to do. You'd probably benefit a little bit more doing bone-in on this chicken, but you're really not gonna go wrong doing this with boneless, skinless. I really hope you try this dish because it doesn't really take any technique and not much time. But that's gonna do it for me today. Give me some more suggestions on simpler dishes like this because it'll save me some time and it'll probably be more beneficial to you guys. But thank you guys for watching, be blessed, and I'll see you next time. Make that for someone and they'll think you know what you're doing.